Parshas Tetzaveh, Shabbos, Parshas Zachor, the week, Shabbos before Purim. So it's just like when it rains, it pours, right? We have so much to speak about. We're going to have to try to focus our lesson on one of the things in the time that we're allotted. You know, we're always trying to keep this short enough that we could keep some people's attention span. So we really have a lot. This is a big week. There's a lot going on. So let's get started. The pasuk in Megillas Esther says, near the end of the Megillah, V'hayomim ha'ele nizkorim v'na'asim b'chol dor v'dor. These days of Purim, we're going to remember them, and we're going to do these days of Purim, and every generation, mishpacha, each family, medina, each country, each province, v'ir, each city. And the pasuk tells us further, v'mei ha'purim ha'ele lo yavru mitoch hayudim. These days of Purim will be around forever. And very famously, the Mefarshim talk about that the Yontiv of Purim will always remain, even when some other celebration, some other Yom Tovim may not be. We're going to speak about that a little bit later in the Shir. But the Pasuk is telling us how chashuv Purim is, that Purim is going to be around, and we're always going to celebrate. We're always going to live with this idea of Purim. And then the Nesivos Shalom tells us that the point being, what we see from this pasuk and what we want to take out of this pasuk is that what we need to know and what we need to learn here is that the light of Purim comes around at this time every single year, every door, every generation, that we need to know that already tells us in the Megillah that these days of Purim will never be batal. These days of Purim will always be remembered and always celebrated. So of course we have to take that lesson, and we have to know that every year at this time of the year, the light of Purim and the spirit of Purim comes around. And every generation, and even today, where we might think that we've gone down so many madregas, so many levels, and we have so many Jews that are so far and so disconnected from Judaism. There are entire factions of Klal Yisrael. We look around, as strong and as booming as Baruch Hashem, the Frum community is today, but it has to hurt us so much to look around and see how such large parts of Klal Yisrael are intermarried, far, they don't know Shabbos, they don't know Yontif, they don't know anything. So I would think that maybe we're so disconnected, and this idea of families being together and coming to Purim, maybe it's not, the light of Purim doesn't come around as much. So the Megillah is telling us no. The Megillah is telling us that even though families are disconnected, the idea of Purim is still there. Mishpacha, your family, you get together with your family. Ir v'ir, cities with no connection, we still get together. Nesivos Shalom brings from Reb Baruch Mimeshbej, Zechus HaYagad Aleinu, and he says about the Maimer Chazal in the Gemara, Masechta Megillah, Daf Yud Zayin, Amud Aleph. Chazal tell us a very interesting thing. The Mishnah, the Gemara, HaKoirei es HaMegillah l'mafreya lo yotza. So, Pashut Pshat, how we learn the Gemara, how we learn the Mishnah, is that if you lay the Megillah out of order, you know, there's a certain sequence to the story of Purim in the Megillah. There's a certain sequence to the Nes of Purim. So it's telling you, HaKoirei es HaMegillah l'mafreya, you lay it the later parts earlier parts later, lo yotze, you're not yotzeh. Zoktre Baruch Mimeshbaj, a beautiful lesson from this Maimer Chazal, from this Mishnah. And he says, HaKoire es HaMegillah L'Mafreya. If somebody reads the Megillah with the idea of L'Mafreya, this doesn't have anything to do with me. The Megillah is talking about, I'm reading the Megillah, I'm reading the historical idea, and I'm reading it with the attitude that it's only talking about some previous historical time of Haman and Achashverosh. That's what we're talking about. It doesn't really apply to me. I don't live the Megillah. I don't live Purim. HaKoros HaMegillah L'Mafreya, with the idea that it's something that was previously Lo Yotza. You're not Yotze, meaning that what? You missed the boat. You missed the point. You missed the whole idea of Purim. The whole idea of Purim and the Nes Purim is talking to you in your generation, in your city, in your house. It's talking to you today. And we need to live the Megillah each and every year. And you know, it's not just that we have to live the Megillah. You have to really, when you read the Megillah, and we're going to read it on Monday night, we have to understand that the scary pain of the decree to wipe out Klal Yisrael and the great joy of the nes that ensued afterwards that Hashem did for us by saving us, we have to live that. We have to understand that our lives, we have to feel like our lives were in jeopardy. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and turned everything around, and He made a nes for us, and there was a nes Purim, and it all got turned around on Haman and the Goyim. So we have to understand that all of that, we have to live that way and understand that Hashem is doing it for us every single day, preventing things from happening to us. So we say, Lo Yotza, HaKoros HaMegillah L'Mafreya. Oh, about an earlier story, that doesn't apply to me. Lo Yotza, because you're missing the point of the day of Purim. You're missing the entire Matara of the Yom Tov. Chazal tell us, this very famous Chazal, and we touched on it at the beginning of the Shir. Chazal tell us in the Medrash Sheikh HaToiv, in Mishlei Tes, and very famously, everybody knows this, that all of the Mayadim, La'asid Lavoi, very soon, when Mashiach is going to come, that all of the Mayadim are going to be batul. Okay, so they all ask, how's it possible? There's a Torah, talks about Pesach, so many answer that it doesn't mean that there won't be the Yom Tovim, but the excitement and the nisim that we're going to see very soon when Mashiach comes, everything that happened, including Yetzias Mitzrayim, and all those things will pale in comparison, so we'll feel like those Yom Tovim Batul. That's just one of the terutzim. But the Medrash, the point of the Medrash is that Purim's going to be around, and the other Yom Tovim are not going to be around in the same way. Purim's going to be the only one there, because Purim has a special nitzchias, which will light up all future generations around the Yom Tov of Purim. And that says in the Nesivos Shalom is a lesson for us, that Purim can light the way for every one of us in whatever matzav we're in, just like Purim lit up and turned around the lives of every Yid who lived in the time of Achashverosh, in the time of Mordechai the Esther. So too, the Yom Tov of Purim could turn around your life and turn it into a good way from any matzav you might be in. And we need to remember why. We have to think, why is it that way? Why is it that especially the Yom Tov of Purim is going to be the one Yom Tov that's kept? It says in the Nesivos Shalom, it's that way. We have to understand the bottom line. What drives this whole thing is the great love that Hashem has for Klal Yisrael. The Medrash in Shir Hashirim, Perek Ches, Pasuk Zayin, says on the Pasuk of Mayim Rabim Lo Yuchlu L'Chabois Esoava. All the water in the world, the multitudes and a lot of water cannot extinguish, cannot put out the love, and it refers to the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for Klal Yisrael, that all the nations of the world, no matter how much they try, they cannot put an end and they can't uproot the love that Hashem has for us. And there's seemingly a bit of a contradiction about Purim that I want to ask if you ever thought of such a thing. On one hand, we just mentioned that the Yontiv of Purim is never going to be batul. Why? Because Purim is greater than every other Yontiv. And on the other hand, we have a Gemara, Masechta Megillah, Daf Yudaled Amud Aleph. The Gemara says that the reason we do not say Hallel on Purim is because it's not a complete nace. Why? Because it's not a complete Yontif, because Akati Avdei Achashverosh Anan. Look at us, we're in Golus, and we're still under the control of the Goyim. So, although there was a Nes Purim, but we still are in Golus, we're not on our own. So, that's why we do not say Hallel on Purim. So the answer, on one hand, we're saying Purim is so great that Purim will never leave, and it's the greatest Yom Tov that is and that will ever be, and it will never go away. And on the other hand, we're saying Purim's not so big because we don't say Hallel on Purim because we're still under the Goyim. The answer, says in Nesivos Shalom, is exactly from this question. And this is exactly what Purim is about, and Purim is showing us that even though we are still Avdei Achashverosh, even though we're still in Golus and we do not, believe it or not, we do not own this world, the Goyim own the world and we are still under them, and we can't say Hallel, even so, still Hashem loves us with everything. With all of our Golus struggles, and with all of the facts that we are not in control here, with all our problems, still, Mayim Rabim La Yuchlu L'Chaboises O'Hava. That yes, it's taka true that we're not able to do what we want, and we're not able to be Mekayim everything, and we're not in control. But still, Mayim Rabim La Yuchlu L'Chabois. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has such a love for us that this Yontiv of Purim will be forever. And that was the greatness of the Kimu V'Kiblu HaYehudim. That we accepted the Torah again, even in that matzav. Even in that matzav of Akate Avdei Achashverosh Anan. It wasn't a complete geula. It wasn't a complete redemption. It was a great nace. But still, we went ahead and Kimu V'Kiblu HaYehudim, that we were Mikabel the Torah at that time, Bi'ava Uveratzai. And just like it is for the Kalal, says in the Nesivos Shalom, we need to understand that it's that way for the individual too. Each one of us at this time of the year has a chance, this week especially, where we have, think about it, we read Parshas Tetzaveh, where we have the light of the menorah in the Parsha, the menorah lighting the way for us. We have the winning of the Milchama over Amalek. We're gonna read in Parshas Zachor the winning over Amalek, which represents winning over the Yetzer Hara. And we also have the light of the Nes Purim. We have all three of these wonderful things together. The love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu showing everywhere. The light of the menorah, winning over Amalek, the Nes of Purim. Remember what the Nesivos Shalom says, that it comes around every single year. At this point, we have a koyach, we have the strength inside of us to light up our lives and turn it around. A Nes Purim, you might think you're so far gone and I didn't daven enough, I didn't learn enough, I wasn't nice enough, I didn't do enough chesed. This is the time, this is the week where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says He makes nisim for us. The light is there. It's waiting for us to turn it around and take advantage. Take advantage of this Yontiv of Purim. Take advantage of the light of the menorah of Parshas of the defeating the Yetzer Hara in Parshas Zachor, and we should all be Zocheh to Afelch and Purim and enjoy it responsibly.